Thank you for inviting us to take part of this project, the PREVENT project, and for allowing us to be part of co-creating the project, because this has been really interesting and given us a lot of new ideas and thoughts. I want to a bit closer. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about how we work with prevention initiatives in Norway. And of course, there are a lot of programs, specific initiatives that are put in place, but that will not be the focus of this presentation. It will be a presentation that talks about how prevention initiatives are embedded in instead of added on the service system. Norway. Long country, thin country, not that many people. 5.5 million people, so that's about a small population, but a big area. So we have a lot of rural areas. 15 counties is divided, Norway is divided into, and 357 municipalities. And the municipalities have a lot of autonomy in Norway. And the most of the prevention initiatives lie on municipal level. That means that the variation across the country on what we do to prevent violence and bullying in Norway is huge. And just to give you a little picture of the variance of the municipalities, Utsira is the smallest one. Am I still too far away? I'm usually loud. Okay, thank you. Utsira is the smallest one, has 215 people living in it. Oslo is the biggest one with more than 700,000. And these municipalities are to deliver the same level of services at the same standard. When it comes to health services, these are the ones that primarily work on prevention in Norway. It's the GPs, the general practitioners, that all inhabitants in a municipality is entitled to have your own doctor. And we have health centers from 0 to 5. They work with maternity care and all the way up to children start at schools. They work with their parents and with the kids. They do vaccinations, screening, conversations about addiction, violence, everything. School health services are embedded into the schools, and they work with the same kind of topics. They have the same professionals connected to them, but they are embedded into the schools. So you can find a school nurse down the hall in the school. Youth health centers are kind of an addition to this. It's not that strongly connected to the schools, and that is also because some children aren't in schools, and sometimes the children don't want to talk about their whole life inside of a school. Sometimes they want to be seen as an individual that is not dependent on the school setting. And they work with the holistic perspective of health, but also with a special emphasis on sexual health and prevention of pregnancy and those kind of things. Our education system starts at 1 year, usually. You can start kindergarten before 1 year, but most kids start around 1 year. And from 1 to 5 years, every child in Norway is entitled to a place in kindergarten. Primary school starts from 6, lower secondary from 13, and up to 16. Up to 16 years old, every child has to go to school, so it's a right and an obligation. However, upper secondary school is also a right. You don't have to, but you are entitled to upper secondary education in Norway, and most children attend. Not all, but most. I want to say something about the legislation, because that's been a focus here today, right? Where is it? Where does it sit? And with both the health system and the school system, it is connected to the municipality. The municipality is to provide these services. And they are supposed to provide them with a holistic picture of health and well-being as an embedded part of providing school and education. And there's a specific clause in the law that we call Clause 12 that has specific rules about what do we do if the school environment isn't good enough. And that is it's a right on an individual level. That means that if you're not happy at school, you can report, your parents can report, the teacher can report, the janitor can report, everyone, every adult in the school environment has obligation to speak out if they see something, and the school have to act. And it has to be documented what they do. So this is a very strong right, but as any initiative, any legislation, it's very much dependent on the professionals that are enacting it and the knowledge of the people that do this. So the principles focused on these issues will influence the level of the actions that are put into place. We also have an elaborate child welfare service, and this is mainly based on municipal level. It is run on the best interest of the child, so anything they do has to be led by the best interest of the child. They provide advice, guidance, but also investigation. If there's someone that thinks that something is wrong in a family, you have to investigate. And the child should be heard, and the parents should be heard, and others that might have information. And they have to document this very clearly. Most of the support is given by guidance and in the home. Most of the child welfare services do not place the child out of the home. However, the way it's understood by a lot of people is that they are the ones that take children away. And this is a challenge in getting into position of helping if people are scared of you. On a regional level, are all the decisions, if we choose to place a child out of the home, the decision has to be made on a regional level. So you have to write really clear case, there has to be an extra investigation, and then the child might be placed in foster care temporarily or a youth institution temporarily. It is never for life or for your whole childhood initially. There's a tribunal to assess these cases, and it's also a function on regional level to make sure that the quality on municipal level is good enough. This is, of course, because it's very intrusive. We go into people's homes and ask questions about how do you care for your child, what is happening here, what is actually true. Also want to say something about our police service, because they started new policy in 2021, changing their focus from punishment and control and trying to work more on prevention. And one of the really good things they did in that was to say prevention is an area that we have to work with specifically and holistically. So everyone needs to work on prevention, but we can't just say everyone, because if we say everyone has to, then no one does it, kind of. So that's the risk. So they also have a special division that works specifically on that, and it's a little bit bigger than 1.5 Icelandic women. It's also a bigger country. Every municipality also, following this strategy, has an SLT contact, and that means that the municipality has a special contact with the police focusing on addiction and violence issues around youth. So there's a specific emphasis on that. And this model just shows the different things they work on: dialogue and trust, knowledge and competence, leadership and management, interaction and collaboration. And the collaboration is really important here. We've been working partly through this project and partly through other projects with the police as a collaborator. And what they emphasize is their job is to make you feel safe. That's the most important thing they can do. They cannot fix all the things around social issues. There are other people that they need to collaborate with that do that well. But they have to work on trust, and they have to support communities so that people feel safe. That's the best way to prevent crime. Also, just want to mention that one of the things they emphasize is that they don't carry weapons. Norwegian police don't carry weapons. If it's a high-risk situation, they might have weapons in their car, but it's locked down. And if they go into a school, if there's been a situation at the school, for instance, they would never come in with a gun on them. And that's also a signal of showing, I'm here to help, I'm here to support, and they don't try to escalate the situation. Family centers. is just one example. I'm just showing you a couple of examples of that show this way of doing it inside the services. So the family centers are a way of supporting children and families holistically. So we pull all these different public services in together. And in Norway, a lot of the services that work with children and families and schools and education, everything is public services. Almost nothing is the voluntary sector or NGOs in Norway. And you can see the house has 3 storage, so everyone comes in on the first storage, come to the health centers, come to the checkup with the children, maternity care, all of that. And they can also come to these drop-in kindergarten centers where they come with their child and they play together, and then they meet professionals. If they need help, they can walk up the stories. And this is actually inspired from Sweden and has now spread around all the Nordic countries. Co-creating inclusive networks, children and parents, the Together project is a very different project, works in schools. And what we did there was that we took something that was already well established. We have parent meetings in Norwegian schools. Every semester there's a parent meeting and you bring all the parents together. And these meetings, they have been going for years and years, but if you talk to people and say, was it useful to go to the parent meeting? Everyone says, it wasn't very interesting. It's mostly information about things. And every parent meeting has a section where they talk about the clause 12, how to ensure that children are having a safe environment at school. However, what we did in this project was to start to talk about what does it mean? What is my role in it? How do we engage with parents in a way that they actually take a part in creating a safe environment for children? So it's a very different thing. And the teachers find parent meetings really difficult because they're trained to do teaching for children. They're not trained to work with parents. So working with this project, we made a digital platform for the teachers to help them draw the kids and the parents in. So the children helps define what is important for adults to talk about, and they also get a loop back after the meetings where the children are informed, what did your parents, what did the teachers come up with? What are their contribution to ensuring that you're safe and happy at school? It's a very interesting project. I could talk about it for ages, but I'll move on. Another really interesting example of how we work with prevention work in Norway is the outreach work in the biggest cities in Norway. There are teams that work directly with youth, and these are often the youth that are marginalized. They fall out of activities, school, they start crime behavior, drug addiction, other types of things. And what they do is 3 different things. They work on outreach, which means they're out there where the children are, at schools, on the streets, in basement of parking garages, in places where challenges occur, and they talk to them. They don't police. That's the police job. They engage with them, they talk with them, they try to understand, and they also report up. So they write reports to the politicians, to the managers, about what do they see, what are the trends, what is happening. They also follow up. Some of the youth need more awareness and more follow-up than what they can provide when they just walk around and have the general conversations. And then they have follow-up and they lead them to other parts of the system. Part of what is challenges is that often services in the original system, the traditional services, they are not as used to talking to children with this great challenges. So it's a bit difficult to give them up the line. They should kind of lead them up the house, if there was a house, but the stairs aren't that good yet. So that's part of what we're working on. And also, I talked about this mapping. The documentation is really, really important. Writing up what they see as the challenges, communicating what youth are struggling with, what the underlying conditions are, is really a big part of what they do. And this is a project that I've been working with Kristin, who's here with me. And we're soon publishing on it, I think. We're writing it up this week. Reactivate is Kristin's project, and I'm just thank you for borrowing it to me today. It's an example of how we work with vocational rehabilitation, and it's worked through the national system of supporting people to get back to work or into education. And the focus is not to train them to work, the focus is to create art, and through that these youth gain capacity. They understand more about how they what they're capable of, the sense of belonging, feeling that they have value, attending a meaningful activity. And these things create a sense of being able to do things that they carry on with them their whole life. So it's interesting how we can work with young people and actually seeing their potential and not letting it stop us, that they might have quite big challenges when they come in the door. And some of them carry their challenges with them their whole life. They might have mental health issues that they never kind of fully recover from the medical way of talking about recovery. But if they find a way to live with it, then it might not be such a big problem in your life. So, last slide, promise. Prevention of youth crime in the Norwegian context is highly embedded in the services, in the system. It runs on trust. We need to use time to establish trust. Trust is established to respecting youth and respecting other professionals that have other roles in the system than you, and a high level of collaboration. You need to collaborate with the people that need support and with colleagues or people in other services or the voluntary sector or the local community or the parents, so that we together can get one step further. Thank you.